out and about at the zoo for my 4-year-old son. Basically, one day he just turned around to me and said, "Mummy, why haven't you written a book for me yet?" And I figured he had a very good point. And so I wrote Out and About at the Zoo, which was based on the first time I took him to the zoo. And it's rhyming text as well, because that's his favourite kind of book. He gave a lot of input into both the text and the pictures, so they're 100% approved by him. And I'm really happy that so many other children like the book as much as he does. Italian for Tourists is an English-Italian phrase book. It's designed specifically for tourists. Now, basically, this came about because when I first came to live in Rome, I was working at a hostel, and so many people told me that I should write this book that in the end I figured, well, why not? Give it a go, you know. And so I created this book. At first glance, it might seem very basic and minimalist, but that's actually the whole point. That's the whole idea behind it, because there's so many phrase books out there, but most of them contained information which is completely irrelevant to a tourist who's only here for a few days or a few weeks. You know, they don't need to know how to rent an apartment, for example. And, you know, they just want to know where the bathroom is, how much things cost, how to ask for directions. They want to just know the basic stuff. So that was the idea behind Italian for Tourists, anyway, to take things back to the basics and make it as easy as possible for a tourist who's coming here just for a quick visit to be able to find the exact words and phrases that they actually need during their visit. I wrote a guide to weddings in Italy back in 2006, after I got married here. I'm a Brit and I'm married to an Italian, and as anyone who has had anything to do with Italy will know, when it comes to paperwork and things, it's not the simplest of things to deal with. Italians have a very special system that I don't think even they understand most of the time, unfortunately, which makes it very difficult for other people to actually get things done. So basically I collected together all the information that I'd had to research to be able to marry myself, and compiled it into the book. It also has phrases, sayings, Italian sayings that are related to weddings, because I got bombarded by everyone that I spoke to had these pearls of wisdom to share with me in Italian. So I put those in as well. General traditions about the engagements, actual wedding traditions, and there's even some information about the honeymoon and things in there as well. It's not designed to be your be-all and end-all of wedding guides. It is designed, however, to contain useful information for anyone who's planning on organising their own wedding in Italy, or in fact attending someone else's wedding in Italy. When I'm not working on my books, I have lots of other roles that I do. One of these is being a freelance writer. I generally write about all Italy-related topics, because obviously it's an area that I'm very common with. I either write about that, or I write about pregnancy and parenting. I have 2 little children of my own, and so again, another area of expertise, if you will. And then I have the one that I actually enjoy writing about the most, however, is social media, which is another one of my passions. I am a complete social media junkie, and I love finding out about all the new things that you can do with the various different platforms and things. So I often write about social media as well. As well as my various writing projects, I'm also an avid blogger. I have several blogs. I have my personal blog, which is jolinsdell.blogspot.com. That's basically where I just share about various different events and things that I've taken part in, my works in progress, projects that I'm being part of, thoughts that pass through my mind. It could literally be anything. I also try to share some from my own experience as being a writer. Try to share a few of the things that I've learned along the way as well. Then I have First Time Mums, which is my pregnancy and parenting blog. I have As the Romans Do, which is my Italian-based blog. And then I have Writers and Authors, which is actually expanding. It's becoming more than just a blog. It started as just a simple blog to give information to people in the writing industry. Basically, it was based on the fact that the things that I was learning in my own career, to pass on the information to others. If I came across something interesting that I thought, if it was interesting to me as a writer, then it would probably be interesting to others. Anyway, this has expanded and developed and evolved over the years and has now become the Writers and Authors Project, because there's a very large community behind it as well now. We have the blog, there's the Facebook fan page, which is extremely popular and has a lot of interaction on it as well. There's the Twitter account as well, and recently I launched the Writers and Authors TV on the 1st of September 2012 actually, and that's the YouTube channel where there's the monthly show where I always have a guest come and talk about their books and share information which is useful to writers of a certain genre or with a specific book marketing area in mind. And then I also share my own tips, which are generally social media oriented. And then, of course, there's the weekly quick tips episodes, which are very short, generally around a minute, maximum 2 minutes in length, where I just give a quick tip, basically, which can be anything from writing to book marketing, publishing oriented, but they're quick tips that writers and authors can put into practice to help further their career and marketing efforts. Promo Day is an online event that I organise. It's an annual event that takes place in May. The next event will be on Saturday the 25th of May 2013. This is a project that has evolved from being a small chat room on my own personal website to being a full-blown international event. We now have forum workshops coming up for the next event. There's also going to be the video webinars as well. So it's really developing. We have presenters from all over the world who are experts in various different areas of promotion, book marketing, that kind of area. On the forums there's also space where attendees can do lots of self-promotion, tell people about their services, their various different products, books, etc. One of the best things about the site is the networking possibilities that it gives, because you can connect in one day with members from the industry from all around the world. And now these could be other authors, freelance writers, illustrators, editors, publishers, really anyone from the writing industry. And obviously you can also learn an awful lot in the free workshops and presentations that are available on the site. I mean, if you were going to pay to do just one of those courses, you'd be forking out a lot of money. So having the opportunity to pick the brains of all these experts in one day for free, is a really good thing for writers. I think I've always wanted to be a writer. As far as I can remember, it's always been something that I loved. When I was at school, creative writing, well, actually, basically any of the creative materials that were at school. I did a lot of theatre, I did a lot of art and design. You know, they were my topics that I loved the most. And so for me, it's just natural. I think, you know, I'm born to be a writer, if you will. It's just, you know, something that's part of who I am. Apart from the things that I used to do at school and things when I got into my teens, I used to write a lot of poetry. Didn't really tell anyone about it, but I used to write a lot of poetry. Because for me it was a kind of therapy. It was a good way of dealing with my emotions and sort of venting during that time. And then later on, I just kind of fell into it as part of the jobs that I did. I did work for a company that published books about the dental industry, so you know, I was helping format the book, collect the information, doing the proofreading and things. It was part of my job in the end. Then I went to work at the hospital here in Rome in their neurology department, and I was helping write the articles, the research articles about neurology. You know, I'm not a doctor, I don't know anything about neurology really, only what I learned on the job reading these articles. But, you know, I was proofreading, sending them off, submitting them to various different publications and things. So I've always had that kind of background. It's not something that I sort of went after at the beginning. In fact, what I was more specialised in was credit control, which is something completely different. But I just kind of fell into it, and it was, you know, that was just natural. And then one day I saw an ad asking for articles for an English publication in Florence, and they were asking for articles to be submitted for their newspaper. So I figured, hey, you know, send one off and, you know, see what happens. And they published it in the very next article as it was, and I actually ended up doing several articles for them as well. And that was really the beginning for me, because it made me realise, it was like, hey, yeah, I can actually be a writer. You know, this is something I can do. People have been telling me that, you know, that's what I should be doing for years, and I was just like, yeah, I know. And it never really happened. And then having that article published was, I think, the push I needed to actually make it reality. I write various different genres because I don't like to put myself in a box. I don't like to label myself as being one thing or another. I'm quite a free spirit, and that applies to my writing as well. I'm very much of the school of thought that if you don't try something, you don't know if you're good at it. And if you're good at one thing, doesn't necessarily mean that you can't be good at something else as well. So I like to experiment and you know, see how it goes. So far, I've had a lot of success, and you know, feedback from the various different types of writing I've done have always been positive. So I mean, obviously, I doubt that will always be the case, because you know, there will be people that don't like my work, and I'm fine with that, because I'm not writing for everyone. I'm writing for my audience. So if they don't fall into that, then fair enough. On with the next. But also, you know, someone who doesn't like my work in one genre doesn't mean that they won't like my work in another. So you know, you can pick up fans just, you know, through your different work and things as well. I always love to try new things, whether it's social media based or whether it's writing based. I like to push myself. I like to go, you know, and see where I can actually get to. I think that, you know, some risks really are worth taking, and if you don't step out of your comfort zone, then you're not going to grow, either as a person or in your actual career. You need to push yourself and try new things. And, it won't always work, but sometimes it will, and you'll discover a whole new world which opens to you. Basically, I find the time, because I think that anything that you really want to do, you do find the time to do it. It's not easy because I have two small children. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old. I'm very blessed because they're incredibly well behaved and they actually let me work. But I make the time to do it. So, I grab 5-10 minutes here and there when I can. I try to do things like program my blogs in advance as much as possible, so that I don't have to worry about them. I can sit down a couple of times a month and bang out some blog posts, have it all programmed up, and then sort of forget about it a little bit so that I can concentrate on my other projects. When the kids go to bed in the evening, I will stay up for a few hours and work on my projects there as well. If my husband takes the kids out for the morning to the park or whatever, then I'll make the most of that time to do things as well. It's really, it depends. You have to make it a priority. But then I think if you're going to do this as a job as opposed to a hobby, then you have to look at it with the mindset of a job as well. You have to make the time to do it and put in the hours.